Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 8th, 2020 Board of Supervisors virtual meeting. I will try to give a quick overview of who is on the virtual meeting from the Township side, just so everyone is aware. Myself, Scott Lambert. We have Rich Orlow, Sue Drummond, John Nagel, Solicitor Joe McGrory, Chief Chris Yeager, Ted Locker, Steve Brown, and Zach Barner. And if I've missed anyone out of the long list, please let me know.
And Donna Reichert, our board secretary.
And Donna, who will be handling the emails coming in. I guess we will start off the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
Liberty.
indivisible,
Liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to start off this evening on a somber note, but in a small township like ours, resident volunteers can make a positive impact on their community. And last week, we lost one of those volunteers, Tommy Cockerham. And at this time, would like Rich Orlow, who worked with and knew Tommy for many, many years, would like to make some and share some comments on that relationship and knowledge of Tommy.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Yeah, it's with great sadness that we lost Tommy. Thursday, July 2nd. Tommy was a lifelong resident of Fraser in East Whiteland. Anyone who met Tommy was immediately captivated by his personality. Warm, bright, outgoing. As a young person, when he was old enough, he joined the East Whiteland Fire Company as soon as he could and was a lifelong member of the East Whiteland Fire Company. Some things I didn't know about him, but knowing, hearing his voice, he was a radio personality. He also did voiceover artist recordings for commercials for radio and television stations. Anybody who met Tommy can certainly understand that. I knew Tommy from the fire company. Tommy was captain of the special fire police for the fire company. And the one thing that always stuck out to me from participating in the fire company and meeting with Tommy, there's one thing that he always wanted to make absolutely sure of. And that is when he was out on a call, his priority was always for the safety and protection of all the members that were out on that call, whether it was on Route 202 in heavy traffic, Turnpike, Route 30, 29, ever he was out there, he was focused on the safety of the first responders who were doing the work at the site. He wanted to make absolutely sure that everyone returned to the fire company so they could return to their families at night. And he's a very, very special guy. So we offer our deep condolences and prayers to his wife, Linda, cousin, Randy, and all his family members and friends. And with that, we would ask everyone for a moment of silence in memory of Tommy Cockerham. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Next on the agenda, under 2B, Responding to the recent National Police activity, an in-depth position paper was compiled by Chief Yeager. It can be viewed on our township website. And Chris, if you have any specific comments you would like to add at this point in time, please take a moment and do so.
I don't necessarily have anything that I want to add to it. I would just like to stress that the points that I made in there are consistent with everything that we stand for in East Whiteland and in the past and going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Next is 2C. We're going to discuss some of the recommended best practices for the township. And we will continue to follow safety practices and precautions that surround the Corona-19 pandemic that we've been having. And we are continue to look through organizations like the Chester County agencies and the state guidelines to assist us in developing those best practices in protecting the township employees and the public. In our virtual meeting guidance area, we will determine on a month-to-month basis as things are changing as to whether or not we will continue to have the virtual meetings or if we will have an in-person meeting at the township building. Joe McGrory is monitoring all of that, as well as Steve and other members of the staff. And John Nagel and Steve Brown, if you have any comments on any of those areas, please.
I would just add to what's already been said. We've been deemed by the governor as essential employees and have been working at home, or currently we're working in the office, full staff on the issues servicing our residents and businesses, and we'll continue to do that. We are not yet open. We're working towards opening based on what the governor has advised. We set some precautions, physical precautions with plexiglass in certain areas where there's shared space with employees and where there's going to be customer interaction. We still have some ways to go with that. We have a lobby area that's somewhat protected, but still has a little bit of ways to go with that. We seem to be serving at the same level of service that we did before we closed the building. And so we'll continue to make movement towards a full opening at some point in the future. We're having some limited by appointment meetings in the building, but that's rare and not the standard. I think that's about all.
This one?
Okay.
Scott, did you want me to speak briefly to Roman numeral 3 or?
Well, why don't you follow up at this point? One of the things that is somewhat different and new here under the best practices scenario is a contact tracing process for restaurants. And as part of utilizing those best practices for the safety and the welfare of our residents, we're encouraging, I repeat, we are encouraging restaurants to put into place a simple contact tracing process to mitigate if there is an outbreak of COVID-19 and help keep our restaurants in business and open. The process is pretty simple. It includes gathering a name and a phone number of one of the party members who's attending or having dinner at one of the restaurants and the date. And in the event that there is an outbreak, we can help mitigate by having that information to contact other people that were in the restaurant at that particular time. Steve, I know you ended up talking with the Chester County Health Department and they had some comments on that.
Yeah, Scott, I think you covered what the township intends to do, and I don't have anything to add to that. I was on a phone call last week with Jean Kasner and one of her, she's the health department director and one of her staff people that works with the restaurants, and they were very much interested in what we were talking about doing and encouraged us to go ahead and do that. So I know they would appreciate our efforts to reach out to our restaurants and encourage them to do as you said.
Okay. And again, we would appreciate if our restaurants would join in this process. Under 2D, I'd like to point out that we have had executive sessions were held on June 30th at 5 o'clock for legal issues and on July 8th at 6 o'clock for real estate, personnel, and legal aspects. Next on our agenda is the public hearing that Joe McGrory will talk about.
Scott, if I could just make sorry, I just had to unmute myself. We also talked about real estate matters on June 30th at 5, just for the record.
Okay, thanks.
At this time, Scott, I'd like to open the hearing for the conditional use and introduce into the record the following exhibits. Board Exhibit 1 is the application for the conditional use received by the township on February 3rd, 2020. Board Exhibit 2 is the legal notice of tonight's conditional use hearing. Board Exhibit 3 is the proof of publication in the daily local newspaper on June 24 and July 1st, 2020. Board Exhibit 4 is a proof of submission of the application to the Township Planning Commission dated March 6th, 2020. Board Exhibit 5 is the affidavit of posting of the parcel dated June 29, 2020. Board Exhibit 6 is the proof of the Township Engineer approval dated March 9, 2020. Board Exhibit 7 is the proof of Township Plan Commission approval dated July 25th, 2020. Before we begin, this is a very simple conditional use involving the installation of a sewer line with no other reasonable, logical place to put it other than through steep slopes. Because of the simple nature of this application, the attorney has asked me if he can just do an offer of proof rather than submitting formal testimony. Is the board in agreement with that?
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, then
that's right.
Mr. O'Neill, the floor is yours, and you can just do an offer of proof.
Thank you, Mr. McGrory. Yes, I'm Sean O'Neill. I'm representing the applicant, Mr. Ryan Reese. He owns the property at 17 Spring Road near its intersection with Warren Avenue. He is proposing a 2-lot subdivision, which is currently before the township. And that 2-lot subdivision, which perhaps Zach can share now or whenever is appropriate, there's a title plan which we've submitted as Exhibit A4, which gives you a picture of the subdivision. So part of that subdivision is the existing dwelling on the property. And another part is a proposed new subdivision lot, a building lot upon which Mr. Reese intends to build a new home while retaining the existing dwelling, perhaps for lease or otherwise disposing of it. So you'll see on that subdivision plan that the house in the front and the lot in the back. You'll also see on that subdivision plan a crosshatched 20-foot wide strip of ground that goes across the back lot, or the, I guess, easternmost lot, and into the shaded area, which is the very steep slope area, and ultimately joins to the neighboring property owned by Mr. Richard Cavada, and crosses that through that 20-foot wide easement until it joins the existing township sanitary sewer easement to the northwest of the property. So in order to get the lateral or laterals for each of the homes to the sewer, there will be an easement that goes from lot 1 across lot 2, and then briefly across that adjoining Richard Cavada property before connecting to the public sewer line. The subdivision itself is being processed and has received a recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission. And that was received by the applicant and his engineer on June 24th. The applicant is, as I said, Ryan Reese, and his project engineer, Jack Robinson, are both also participating in this meeting. And I would ask, and Mr. Gory and the board has graciously agreed to allow me to summarize their testimony about the project, and then ask them to confirm after I'm finished doing that, whether the facts as I've recited them are generally true and correct, to supplement anything they wanted to say that I didn't say. With that, I would just proceed to go through the exhibits that we are submitting tonight. There are 9 exhibits, and I will describe what each of them do and show. The first exhibit, A1, if I may proceed, is a packet containing copies of notices to all abutting neighbors, of which there are 3. So there are notices prepared, which includes a copy of the legal notice that was given by the township. And there's also a picture of each mailbox into which Mr. Reese deposited the notice of the hearing. And that was done 10 days before the hearing. So those notices are included for the record. The second exhibit is just a copy of Mr. Reese's deed, submitted just to establish his standing to make this application. So it's a copy of his deed dated July 10th, 2008. Next is Exhibit A3, and this is a Chesco Views map of the property and its environs. You'll see on that, if you choose to share it, I'm not sure it's essential, but it shows the adjoining properties. So the Cavada property that I mentioned, and which showed on the subdivision plan, actually surrounds this property on all 3 sides. And there it is there. So the Reese property is highlighted in red, and the Cavada property is to its east, and also to its north, and also to its west in that strip of ground outlined in yellow to the west of this lot. That's all the Cavada property, and it's parcel 42-4R26. Across the street are the other properties to which notice was given. There's a home at 42-4R47, the O'Brien property, and there's also an industrial property, the Delenti property, which is the more western property across the street on Spring Road. Exhibit A4 is the title plan that you were looking at previously, and that shows what I described, the 2 lots and the sewer easement to get to the township sewer line. Exhibit A5 is sheet 4 of the pending subdivision, and that kind of best shows you the location of the existing home, the proposed new home, and the 2 sewer laterals, which will extend from each through the steep slope and through that sewer easement. And you'll see that those 2 sewer laterals do not occupy the full 20-foot width of the sewer easement, but are actually situated within fairly close proximity of one another to minimize the amount of disturbance that will occur. They're going to be laid between 5 and 10 feet from one another. And that will also minimize the tree removal that will have to occur, and will also enable the maximize the opportunity to stabilize the site. Both of those lines are going to be laid at the same time, so there won't be a excessive disturbance. It will all be done at once. Exhibit A6 is the erosion and sediment control plan from the subdivision plans. And we've included that in the record. It doesn't show too much more, but it lays out all of the erosion and sediment control protections that are both required by your ordinance and required by good management practices to stabilize the site during construction. And that's mostly the site of the proposed house construction. And you'll see the fabric that blanket that's laid out there. And the notes accompanying the plan make clear that the owner's obligation is to minimize tree removal and to stabilize the site with vegetative cover as soon as possible. And that's all subject to inspection in the course of construction. Exhibit A7 is the legally described sanitary sewer easement that leads from Lot 1 over Lot 2 to get to the Cavada property. And behind that, that legal description is the actual text of an easement that we have prepared and Mr. Reese has signed, and it declares an easement on Lot 2 of this 2-lot subdivision. And that's been signed and acknowledged before a notary. It's actually already been submitted for recording. We haven't yet received the return of the document from recording. It's being submitted electronically through Simplifile, and they apparently are busier than usual, but it was submitted yesterday and we anticipated to have it back today, but we will certainly supply a copy for the record if you desire that, but it has been declared, notarized, and submitted for recording. So the next exhibit is A8, which is an easement showing the easement area across the Cavada property. I think that one's still 7, maybe. There it is. Okay, so that shows the continuing easement onto the neighbor's property and then reaching the sanitary sewer line easement of the township. So it's a fairly brief crossing across that neighbor's property to get there. Attached to the legally described easement area is the textual document by which Mr. Cavada has now granted an easement to Mr. Reese to lay the sewer lines within that strip of ground on his property. That text that follows the plan is a grant of easement. It has been signed, acknowledged before a notary, and submitted for recording. So it is a done deal as far as Mr. Cavada and Mr. Reese are concerned. And we can supply the recorded document for the subdivision plan record when we receive it back. Exhibit A9 is, there's a section of your ordinance, zoning ordinance 200-57.13 that requires a narrative be submitted as a part of the application. And the purpose of that is to basically describe the slope, the soil, vegetative characteristics of the portion of the property that will be encroached upon, and the measures that will be taken to minimize tree removal and stabilize the ground cover upon installation of the lines. And all of that information is laid out in narrative form. There are also pictures and photos included with that narrative, but that's required by your ordinance, was submitted, and we're asking to make it a part of this record. So in summary, the conditional use is being requested and is necessary in order to provide suitable and efficient sanitary sewer service to these properties. This property.
Sean, can you send me electronic version of the 9 exhibits?
Certainly. Do you need those right now?
No,
Okay.
just whenever you get to it. So
Absolutely.
I can use them to draft the decision.
Yes, absolutely. I'll get those to you first thing tomorrow. By the way, I've neglected to mention that the property is in your mapped sewer district, which frankly encompasses most of the township at this point, but it's in the R sewer district in the comp plan. So it's intended to be serviced by public sewer. The effect of these measures to control erosion and sediment control will be that tree removal will be minimized, and there will be no adverse impact upon this property, which will obviously be benefited by the sanitary sewer service, nor any adjoining or nearby property. The other benefit of doing it this way is we don't have to put in on-site sewer, which would take up a lot more excavation and exploration of the site in those areas near steep slopes to create the isolation distance between a septic system and a well on both lots. So this avoids all that as well. The sewer system on the existing residence will be abandoned in accordance with regulations upon the conclusion of this project, and there will be no on-site sewer disposal on the tract at that time. With that, I would ask Mr. Reese, who I think is participating, and I asked Mr. Reese with respect to his ownership of the property, his delivery of notice, and his intended use of the property, whether I've fairly summarized and accurately summarized what would be his testimony if I had asked him questions about that.
Well, let's swear him in. Mr. Reese, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Did I fairly and accurately describe your ownership and plans for the property?
Yes, sir, Sean, you did.
Okay, as well as the delivery of the notices 10 days before the hearing.
Yes, sir.
And with that, I would then proceed to ask Mr. Robinson if he needs to supplement anything I've said or to correct anything I've said, and if not, to confirm what I've said is accurate and fairly represented.
Mr. Robinson, raise your hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right.
And to answer your question, Sean, yes, I confirm everything you had spoken about.
Other than the fact that you are a licensed engineer that is well known to the township, is there anything else that you would like to add to the presentation?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay. At this time, of course, the witnesses are available for questions from the board. Are there questions?
Okay, does the board have any questions?
I have
I have
none.
a question. This is going to be an open trench. It's not going to be built by drilling through, but it's an open trench. Is it going to be the whole 20 feet wide?
No, so it'll be actually as narrow as it can be. It's only going to be 3 to 4 feet deep, is what we're showing it, because it's only a lateral. So they may be able to get a trench as narrow as just a foot. So
How long do you think it'll be open? Because, we could get a rainstorm like we did yesterday and it'll basically be a new creek,
this is the kind of thing that when you install an open trench like this, you install it in a day. They use like something they call like a ditch witch or something like that. It's not like a sewer lateral like you're familiar, or a main like you're familiar with. It's laterals are go in a lot easier. I think they have to backfill that day that they put it in.
in one day. Okay, so pick a dry day. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The board have any other questions?
None.
Ted and Zach, are there any issues that you see?
None from my end.
I think Scott, or I think Sean hit the high points pretty well here. I don't have any concerns about this. He's right. There's really no other way really to connect this to public sewer, so.
Thanks.
So if the board has no other questions, Donna, have you received any questions or comments from the public?
No, I haven't.
Okay, no one's requested to enter themselves as a party, correct?
Correct.
All right, so at this point, we can close the hearing. I ordinarily will indicate to the applicant that we have up to 45 days to rule on this application. But due to the simplicity of it, I would have no objection if the board wanted to vote on it tonight, and I'll just issue the decision within 45 days.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
Also, I'm fine with that. So I guess I would make a motion, Joe, to accept the
What's
condition.
that?
So will I make the motion?
Whoever wants to make a motion can make a motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion for the conditional use application, CU 062020 for 17 Spring Road, as well as the SD 052020 application. Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
While the applicant has the floor, there's also a 2-unit subdivision land development plan pending before you. And I believe all the review letters are clean on that. Does the board want to authorize me to draft a resolution for consideration next month?
That's right. That's a 6A2. Yeah, on the next page. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That's okay.
All right. You want me to make a
All right,
motion?
so,
Make
yes,
a motion
but it's
for
just a-
authorize Joe to draft a resolution for SD 05-2020 for Spring Road, 17 Spring Road.
Second?
Yes, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
thanks, Sean.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Good seeing everybody again.
Yeah, same here.
All right, guys, I'm going to send you back to the waiting room, and you can feel free to stay on or log off however you see fit.
Good night, all.
Hi, Elaine.
Okay, we are now out of public hearings at this point. Next, we have no motion to advertise or motion to award or reject anything. But we do have under 4C, Sue, if you can give us some information on the letter of support for the joint grant, the red light endorsement.
Well, we've talked about going in with Charlestown about this left turn lane additions at the intersection of Sidley and Yellow Springs. And we need to get a letter of support to apply for the Arley grant. So we have written that letter of support, which basically says Charlestown and East Whiteland is going in together to apply for this grant.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
No.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the ratification of the letter.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to ratify the letter of support for the joint grant for Arley application with Charlestown Township for the transportation and stormwater improvements to intersection of Phoenixville, Pike, Sidley, and Yellow Springs.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Steve Brown can help me on this too, but pertains to the trail connector at Valley Creek. There are two proposed options in which the Parks and Rec last week voted on option 2 based upon the location being less steep than the first option. And also, after visiting the site, it is well hidden behind some brush. So from looking from tennis courts or the parking area, most of that trail connector would be not in view as you look up the hill. Steve, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Zach, can you share the screen? Can you show? Thank
I
you.
can do that. Mhm.
Now, in short, Scott summarized it. It's a connector trail in Valley Creek Park that will begin at One Country View Road. There's a path for that office building in the corporate center. It'll come across the top of Valley Creek Park as you look up the hill from the amphitheater or tennis courts. And as Scott just said, it'll be hidden behind trees and brush. Either option would be. And it'll come across the top of the park. And then it will tie into the Patriots Path, which is being constructed now from the Atwater development down the hill to the amphitheater area. So option 2 was recommended by the Park and Rec Board. As Scott said, it's less
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We're building that one, right? Or is the developer also building that?
Well, the connector trail, the developer owes us approximately $300,000 more in recreation fees.
Right.
And the option 2 that we're talking about is slightly more than $43,000. Staff recommends, as does the Park and Rec Board, that we use $43,000 of that $300,000 fee. So we would be getting a little bit less more paid to us, but that would prevent us from bidding it, and it would prevent us from using our funds, at least at this point.
As the rest of the fee, why wouldn't we collect that now? Why didn't they have to pay the, I know this is a couple of years ago, but typically rec fees paid up front at the approval of a development, isn't it?
Yes, Rich, I can't speak to that because I was not working with East Whiteland when that deal was made with that water, but
That's no excuse.
well, let me put it this way. They have paid us $300,000 because I've gotten after them. So, and that they're going to put this trail in for, well, the Patriots Path they're putting in this connector trail because I've been on top of them. But anyway.
That's good, Steve.
Is there any reason why we don't have the right to collect the rest?
We'd have to see what Joe thinks, but I think we could put them on notice that we want the rest, build the trails and pay us the rest.
I would. I know the apartment building, they pay their fee 100% up front, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So at this point, I'll ask the board if they want to entertain a motion to accept either option A or B.
Which one's the recommended one, A or B?
B, the 43,250, option 2.
Option 2, yeah.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve location B for this connector trail. I'd like it noted that I prefer it to be 6 feet wide. I think 8 feet's excessive, but I'm not going to hold it up for that.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Can I interrupt? Before you go any farther, I have a couple questions here that were actually related to 4C. And Kevin McGraffney would just like to, for the record, say that he's opposed to 4C, I'm sorry. He's just wants that for the record.
Does he have a reason?
No, he just says he opposes it. So that's what he actually says.
Okay.
And then Jimmy Tuscali, I'm not sure how to say that last name. He has a question on 4C in reference to the proposal for the intersection of Phoenixville Pike and Sidley Road and Yellow Springs Road, seeing that there has been no standalone study done on the intersection and the residents living on Phoenixville Pike are against this project. Should this proposal go forward? Should there at least be a study done on the intersection to study the impact on safety to the local residents before proceeding? Given improvements in traffic technology with smart lights a more thorough study of the intersection, including a potential right-hand turn lane on Sidley, may be warranted to provide options to not only improve rush hour traffic, but also maintain safety.
I think we need to have Chris Williams on there's been studies previously about that intersection. It's long been known as a difficult intersection. So I don't know that we need to have another study before we go ahead and apply for the grant. Now, is he saying he wants the right turn off of Sidley? Because we cut that out because of the excessive cost, thinking that would hurt our chances of getting any money at all. Ideally, we'd like to have that right turn as well.
Won't we have to go through full engineering and permitting with PennDOT, assuming we even get the grant?
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot more work to be done. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe you're both right.
I thought that the whole purpose of these improvements was to improve safety.
Well, and you know, get traffic flowing more easily, and you know, because you get hung up with the people trying to make the left turn now.
All right. Okay.
Should also have a marked improvement on traffic flow on Moores Road, which has become a problem as well. Another east-west road.
And the school district loves the idea. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
And if there are any more, Donna, pertinent emails, just interrupt me, okay?
Yeah,
Sorry, I should have asked you on that.
it's okay.
Next on the agenda is zoning. And Ted Locker will lead us with some information pertaining to 5A was deleted off the agenda if anyone has any older versions. 5A being the Linden Hall property. That was removed. So we're on to 5A number 2. Ted?
Yes. So number 2 is an application from a fellow by the name of Chris McCarthy for a special exception. And he's looking to convert the Great Valley Community Organization basketball location at 19 North Backton Hill Road to an ice hockey training facility. Would be a less intense use than what was there, but similar in that it's a sports use. And that's really the gist of that application. And that is an industrial zoning district.
What would he do? Build a mini indoor rink?
Yes.
Why is that less intensive than basketball?
The number of people, and I think reading through the previous approvals for the basketball, there was a big concern about parking. And
Is that because of the audience, or is it the teams are smaller?
Smaller numbers practicing, I guess, at one point in time.
This is not a place that would have public ice skating sessions.
Correct.
Oh, I wish it would.
I know, that's too bad.
I'd love that. Yeah. And where's the basketball going? Is that because GVCO is building a new building, or are they doing away with basketball?
I guess they've done away, or they're out of there to my understanding at this point. I don't know whether, I don't believe their property itself is ready for anything like that, but.
They sent around a change of address. I think they may have taken the other space in the same building.
They have.
Yeah, okay.
They've taken another space. I don't know if it's in the same building. It's still on Backton Hill.
So they've got enough parking for basketball and ice hockey then?
I wasn't aware the basketball was still there, but as they're taking over their space.
I thought it was the same building. I think it's 15 Backton Hill, isn't it? So I think that building addresses 11 to 19. So I'm just assuming it's the same building.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's only one building on the property at this point. They do have zoning approval I guess for, or some approvals for a second and third building on the property.
There's a big parking area behind this building also. It's not just what you see from the front of the road.
Correct.
So we don't have to rule about how much parking they have. We're just saying, is ice hockey the equivalent of basketball in terms of
Yes.
use?
Basically.
Well, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
As long as I assume they're taking care of the parking one way or another.
Exactly.
The zoning hearing board will make sure
Yeah.
for that.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we don't really need then to,
No, we don't need to send anybody on this
we don't
one.
need to send Joe to the zoning hearing board.
No.
You agree, Rich?
Agreed.
Okay.
Next application, 2020-09 is for Patrick and Deanna Loudon, and this is a residential variance to allow a front porch addition and a second floor addition on an existing structure. The front porch addition is partway across the front of the house currently. It's going to continue all the way to the end, and that section of the house is already sitting in the front yard on a corner lot. So this would extend across the full front within the front yard setback. The second floor addition would be basically the full house, and is part of the house itself is also in the other side, the side street front yard setback. So they are basically looking for relief to expand the house and stay there and make improvements.
That sounds like standard zoning hearing board stuff.
I would agree.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
And then application 2020-10, which is for the Covenant Presbyterian Church. They're looking for a variance from a rear yard setback to allow a 14 by 24 shed for the Boy Scouts within that minimum rear yard. And the rear yard of the church is adjacent to the railroad property, which is zoned industrial. The church is zoned institutional.
Don't they already have a Boy Scout shed back there?
They have one, yes.
They do. Yeah.
Yes.
Gonna be
They
another one.
need another one?
They're gonna
Or
add
they're
another
adding
one,
on?
yeah. I guess they have some growth in the Boy Scouts out there.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay.
So those are the zoning applications.
Okay.
Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to interrupt again before we go any farther. I've got two more comments. So Kevin McGrathney would just like to say that he's opposed because the plan was underthought. The affected residents oppose it. And the truth cause of the congestion are the dump trucks that are not considered. The part of the plan that was removed was the one part that would not take away residents' land. And
I
Jimmy,
just want to state that this plan doesn't take any residents' land. The entire project is within the existing right of way.
and Jimmy just said it does not improve safety. Traffic will go even faster. So that was the two
Thank you,
comments.
Donna.
Thanks, Donna. Moving along to item number 6 on planning and development. Zach, if you can lead us off here on letter A.
Yes, sir. So what I'm going to do is let the applicant in from the waiting room. And once they've gotten a chance to get in and get acclimated here, I'll ask them to give just a quick overview of the project and so let you know where things stand. This is a final plan following preliminary approval last year. And once they get acclimated here, we'll let them state their piece. We got Mike Cowan and I believe Harry Pettyjohn from the applicant is also attending. He appears to be on mute at the moment.
There we go. Hi, my name's Mike Cowan. I'm with Commonwealth Engineers. We're the design engineers for the project. project is a 6-lot subdivision with open space located at the corner of Conestoga and Hill
Can't
Road.
hear you very well, Mike.
Sorry. Let me see if I can. How's that? A little better? So the project, again, I said it was a 6-lot subdivision at the corner of Conestoga and Acton Hill Road. We have had several reviews on this and have worked with the reviewers to address all their comments. At this point, there's only a few items that need to still be addressed, but I believe they're all like clerical or agreements that need to be given to the township. There are a couple items that I did want to point out. I think from the last time you guys have seen this plan, some of the items that we have addressed. One being the landscaping or replacement trees. Previously, we were not fully meeting that, and we were looking for a waiver. On review from Dave Kavanaugh, Land Concepts, we were able to adjust our landscape and provide additional trees to meet the requirements of the township's replacement trees and landscaping. Another item that we have adjusted was we are providing additional right-of-way to the township at the corner of Conestoga and Acton Hill Road for any future development there. We are also providing additional right-of-way along Acton Hill Road, along our frontages for any future development or widening of Acton Hill Road. Another item that we've kind of addressed was the Historical Commission. We've been in front of them and gotten their approval for the project. They had requested some maintenance be done on the church next door, or the church ruins. And we've agreed to those, and I believe agreement still needs to be drafted up and presented, but the Historic Commission has their approval. I think if there's anything else. So really, I think we're in front of you to get an approval from you guys for the solicitor to do a resolution and to get the waivers that we're requesting approved as well.
Will you be repaving or cleaning up the frontage of the road where the houses are going to be built? Right now, the road is, unless I have it confused with Spring Valley, it's pretty rough.
At this time, I believe just the 3 lots on the northeast side of Acton, there's a proposed sewer extension. So that could possibly where they have to address that. But really, I don't believe we were going to be repaving any of the Acton Hill.
Not even the front, not the entire width, but
No.
not even the frontage along the houses?
I do not believe that was proposed. We'll have just where the driveways do extend out to the road. That'll be done, but as far as any along the frontages, no.
Yeah.
Rich, I'm not sure if you're aware, and Steve Brown, you could step in at any point in time, clarify, but during the Historical Commission meeting, there was an agreement between the developer and the commission pertaining to some maintenance issues and as was alluded, but specifically there was the replacement of the fence.
Right.
There was removal of trees near the ruins, but not in the ruins. There was concern of the trees being a liability for removal, and also grass cutting. I believe it was for 18 months before the project was completed.
For the duration of the construction project, which they anticipate to be about 18 months. Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right. All right.
I'm glad to see that you're offering land along Conestoga. At some point, something will have to be done with that road. So having a little more wiggle room there would be great. So I'm pleased with that concession. Thank you.
Sure. Another area, Zach, that I just wanted to mention is that early on in this project, there was issues pertaining to the replacement of the trees. And if there was going to be an excess amount of trees that would not fit into the property, there was some discussion of maybe utilizing the excess amount in other projects, i.e. like Hill.
Yeah, that's correct. At that time, the full calculation for the tree removal hadn't been completed. What they show now on the plan does satisfy the replacement requirement. One of the things we talked about just briefly with the applicant is that if you can see on the plan here, so it's the circles with the black dot in the middle. Those are some of the replacement trees. There's about 80 of them. They are sort of close proximity at the corner of Conestoga and Backton Hill, and then along the perimeter of these lots. I can try to highlight if you're not able to see which ones I'm talking about. But
You can see them.
okay, so if the board would like, and if the applicant is willing to do that, if they do appear to be a little tight, it may be something where these could be planted off site like they offered previously. Mike, I don't know if Mike or Harry, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, Harry, if you want to, I don't want to speak for you. I think he would be willing to work with the township about where these trees, the replacement trees are placed.
Yeah, we're willing to work with you guys on that as long as our costs end up the same. If it's a park that we can't get into or some crazy location that's unreasonable where we're both planting trees, as long as our costs end up the same for the per tree.
Yeah.
And we're definitely willing, because that is a crowded corner. But I just don't, putting them in one of the Battle of Clouds Park or somewhere I picture, it could be very expensive to put 5 trees over there versus putting all these on that corner. So I just want to make sure that my costs stay the same per tree. That's
Fair
all.
enough. I think we're
Work with that. I think it doesn't make any sense to plant trees that 10 years from now are all going to die because they're too close.
We're so
It's
close.
just
to
dumb, you know?
Yeah, Harry, we can work out some of those details. I don't think, just to clarify, I don't think the idea would be to plant, 5 here and 5 there and spread you guys thin. It would probably be a focused location at maybe a park or something like that, like Backton Hill Park right down the road. So
Okay.
we can work with you on that and
For sure.
get that sorted out in advance of next month's meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure. I have a proposal for the trees coming. These trees are per plan, so we'll be able to narrow that down.
Okay, that'd be great.
So on the tree issue, one waiver request was a waiver from retaining 80% of the existing trees on the lot. Now that waiver is no longer needed?
So I can speak to that if you want, Mike. So the way the code reads is that you can clear up to 20%.
Right.
And then anything above that would require the waiver. So what they're saying is they would be removing in excess of the 20%, but they would be replacing them 1 for 1. If they were to replace them, they would still need the waiver essentially. Because you're requesting permission to take them down and replace them. I know it's a little convoluted. But yes, they would still need the waiver.
Being replaced. Okay, that's fine.
Zach, how much in excess of the 80% are we talking about?
I think that it's like right around that number. It's not drastically higher or lower. I don't actually have, they do have that number written down, but I don't have it right in front of me at the moment.
Okay, it's not a clear-cut situation, right?
No, and they will be retaining all of the, if you can see on the sort of the perimeter, that's all going to be open space that's preserved and maintained by the HOA. So all the trees back there will be retained. It's really just the ones where the houses will be placed. So it's a total of about 134 trees. And like I said, they'll be replacing them all on site or combination of on and off site.
I would think maintaining as many of those trees would be a buffer to Conestoga Road.
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely think some at this corner of Conestoga and Backton is a good idea to help soften that corner. It's pretty barren at the moment. So I think, retaining some there and finding a location to put some elsewhere, I think is a win-win for everyone.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments?
Here's a question. What's that notched area going from the lot, looks like lot number 1 out to Conestoga Road? Is that the sewer main?
Correct.
That's it, yep.
Yes.
That'll be the connection to public sewer.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for that house or for all 3?
So that is the sewer main extension. It'll run between lots 1 and 2 and out to Backton Road, and then frontage of those lots. And then
also connects slots 4, 5, and 6 on the other side of the street.
correct.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So at this point in time, do we want to entertain a motion to draft a resolution?
I can make a motion to authorize the solicitor to draft a resolution for SD 10/2018 for HP Flanagan on Backton Hill Road, final subdivision and land development.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we've taken care of SD 05/2020. Next, 6B, consider extension of time to render decision on the following applications. First extension would pertain to Bishop Tube to January 31st, 2021. And I guess there are some circumstances that we would like Joe McGrory to outline to a number of folks who have commented through the email process. Maybe, Donnie, you could read that letter that has come in from a few folks.
Sure.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So it starts by saying, I'm writing to submit the following public comment at the meeting tonight. I see the attorney for Constitution Drive Partners is requesting yet another extension for your decision on the Bishop Tube development application from July 31st to January 31st, 2021. Their letter notes a pending appeal decision from the PA Environmental Hearing Board, but is vague about specifics. Please know CDP is appealing the Delaware River Keepers Network's legal challenges to the prospective purchaser agreement between CDP and the PA Department of Environmental Protection, an agreement that included a convert not to sue, which the DEP voided because it determined that people working on CDP's behalf had engaged in activity that ultimately violated the PPA. The DRN is hopeful its previous win will be upheld. At the past meeting, the Clean and and Green Bishop Tube Community Action Group has asked you to stop granting extensions to CDP, but your usual response is that your hands are legally tied. I ask you to keep East Whitelands Township's best interests at heart as this matter goes forward. Clearly, developing this highly toxic site would be catastrophic for residents and the environment. Our group wants the contamination fully cleaned up and the land protected as natural open space. We are still here and still advocating on behalf of our community with the assistance of the DRN. I hope you members of the board are on our side as well. Thank you. Now that came from Barbara Arnold, Sarah Casper, Jill Holslaw. It was all the same letter. So,
Okay,
okay,
thank you, Donna.
you're welcome.
Joe McGrory, I know it pertains to some litigation that is ongoing and issues related to it, the extension.
Yes, we received a request to grant them an additional extension because the outcome of the pending litigation will have a direct impact on their plans. For reasons I cannot get into publicly, I recommend that you grant the extension, but that you make it abundantly clear that it'll be the last extension granted, that they will have till the end of the year, at which time the township will vote to approve or deny the pending plan as it exists at that time. I think we've given them considerable time to straighten this out. And I think it's in the township's best interest to grant just one more extension. And by the end of the year, they either have a determination that allows them to go forward, or they have a determination that prevents them from going forward. Either way, the township should be prepared to take action by the end of the year.
Just one question, Joe. Their request was to January 31st, 2021. Do you mean till then when you say the end of the year, or December 31?
Yeah. Yeah, I would go January, the end of January is fine.
Okay.
And I think that the issue is whether we are acting in good faith. We're held to a different standard than the Bishop II Protestants are held to. You know, they're advocates and they can advocate for their position. We can't become advocates. We have to rule on whether the plan complies with our ordinances. We can't advocate denial of it like the Protestants are advocating. So we're held to a different good faith, bad faith standard. And I think that I think that a judge in reviewing this would agree that we've given them fair chance to straighten out their plans and to conclude their litigation if we give them an extension until the end of January. And at the end of January, I'm pretty confident the judge is going to say, you know, enough is enough, and you've given them, you know, plenty of time to straighten it out, and they did. Or the litigation goes in favor of the protesting group, and then the whole thing is over. So one way or the other, I think we need to vote on it and take action by the end of January. And we'll make that clear in the letter. Zach, when you send a letter to Lou saying your request for an extension has been granted till the end of January, add a paragraph that this is definitely the last extension that will be granted. The action will definitely be taken before this period is up. If that's the wishes of the board. If the board is inclined to think that way, I would even make that part of your motion to grant the extension, add in there that no further extensions will be granted.
I think that's a good idea. And it'll be interesting to see if having a firm deadline will make anything happen any quicker. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it will or not, but we've been fair in the way we've approached this situation, fair to everyone concerned. And I want to maintain that sense of fairness.
I'm okay with that position.
Likewise. So Rich, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the extension for Bishop Tube till January 31st, 2021, with the understanding that to be communicated clearly to the applicant that this will be the last extension granted for this application.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you get anything else coming over the chat, Donna? Okay.
No.
Okay. Zach, I guess 6B2, kind of simple for water work.
Sure.
Anything?
Yeah, I can run through these kind of quickly if you'd like, or we can just accept them, whatever you prefer.
You know what?
You can just do one big motion granting all the extensions.
Yeah, they look pretty simple. So why don't you just do a quick run through?
Okay, yeah, so Water Walk would be an extension to August 30th, pending their zoning hearing board hearing on the 27th July. Ducklings Early Learning would be to September. They're working on their outside permits and need to go to the Planning Commission. 19 Backton Hill, we're working through some sewer related items, so they still need to go through the rest of the Planning Commission review process. Same with Uptown Worthington, going through the Planning Commission review process. And these last two were what were voted on tonight. We just need an extension to carry them really into the following month in order for the board to take action on the resolution that was authorized this evening.
Okay, great. Sue, would you like to entertain a motion here?
Sure, I'll make a motion to grant extension of time on the items 6B2 through 7 as read.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Zach. There's no financial security releasing at this point in time. Next, Donna, I will refer to you if there are or have been any public comments that may have come in that did not specifically address any of the items that we've talked about on the agenda so far.
Yes, I'm gonna read it. Okay, so one came in, actually Carla Mudry had two comments. One says, so if you look at the news report, you'll see that the area in which the people who were trafficked were living in a lot of the rundown and odd houses and apartments on Lancaster between Sloan Motors. I would think down towards the Wawa, even maybe farther. Who is responsible for inspecting these rental units? One. People who have asked about the no man's land along Lancaster for years. What are the plans and who's inspecting these buildings? Because they don't.
Well, we don't have a rental inspection program.
I'm sorry?
We don't have a rental inspection program other than just fire safety, right?
Well, don't we have a required inspection, but only when property is sold?
I don't know. That might be a Ted question.
Well, let me jump in.
Steve?
Sue, you're right. We do not have a property rental inspection, which, or an apartment rental inspection. And Rich, you're also right. So when residential properties are sold, then a new use and occupancy permit has to be issued and there's an inspection at that time. So a number of these buildings that she's talking about, we really have no way to get into them, that I'm aware of, not from a code angle.
So she's asking, she just actually asked, so who owns these properties?
I think it's various owners.
Yeah, I'm not sure which buildings are in question or which one she's asking about. But yeah, there are probably a variety of owners in that area.
She's asking about the properties that are across from J&L and next to Sloan Motors, and she's asking about the property that's next to the Wawa that was on fire.
We'd have to look up that information. It's actually publicly available on Chesco Views. It's something anyone can look up and see who owns these properties, but we would have to do the same. I just don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. She also had another question, which actually I can answer, and it was she was trying to locate and find out whether we put these online Zoom meetings available for public to view afterwards. And yes, we do. They are on the next day on our website under the quick links, the first option that says online board meetings. So she can find them there. And we have one more question. Okay, so this is from Kevin McGraffney, and he's referring to Sue's comment that the project is all within the right-of-way. If the project is going to be done and the right-of-way is used, the new right-of-way will be 10 feet closer to my house, taking away my land to create the new right.
No, you don't. No, you don't get any more right away. The right away doesn't go any further.
Okay. Currently, we have shrubs, trees, and greeneries sheltering our house and giving us privacy. Can you assure us that you will not be cutting down the foliage? If you do, then the entire house will not only be closer to the road, but exposed to the road. This is absolutely taking away and impacting our property. Additionally, the expansion of an intersection will increase the danger for anyone biking, walking, running along the road. Whether you want them to or not, children walk to school on Yellow Springs Road and use the patch of grass to have a place to walk. You're going to increase the danger of the roads for these children. We are going to fight this grant. It will not. A slower speed limit and no trucks will greatly improve the intersection along with a proper crosswalk for the kids. Sincerely, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Final item on the agenda is number 8, the consent agenda. What I will do is I'll read each one individually. We can comment accordingly, and then we can vote as an aggregate, if that's okay with everyone. 8A, approving the meeting minutes from June 10th. Donna, they seemed like they were okay. 8B, ratify the payments of bills for June for $762,666.97. John, I just wanted to throw this out just as a reminder that you're the point of contact regarding the emergency disaster financial relief program due, I think it's the end of August. Just an FYI reminder.
That's being coordinated by several people. Laura Nafziger, Kathy Kloponis, and I believe Matt Fink. I may be leaving some people out, but we have a group of people that are keeping in front of that.
Okay, great. Item C is to accept the treasurer's report as of May 31st, 2020. D is approve the continuity of operations plan, which is in fact purchasing 13 laptop computers for $21,242 to prepare for hopefully not, but prepare for a second surge from pandemic. I would assume those laptops are to make employees working out of the home more compatible.
That's correct. We also have, coincidentally, we have a number of devices that are reaching the end of their useful life. So some of these were going to be replaced naturally in the next 12 months. And with the way the technology market is, we want to stay ahead of that curve so we can assure that we can get these devices in time to get them loaded and ready and operational.
Sure, makes sense. 8E, approve of replacement of municipal complex internal lighting with LED through the Pico Small Business Direct Install for $37.30 and 24 cents. F, we are looking to, well, ratify conditional job offers to part-time firefighter and emergency med tech candidates Jake Bailey and Ashley Marcetti. John, maybe just a quick overview on that.
We have a pool of part-time firefighter EMTs, and from time to time, we do have either promotions, and we had some recently to full-time, and also we have some that take a full-time position somewhere else. So they're created a need. It's already budgeted for, and these positions were already authorized. The part-timers help defer some of the costs of full-timers, and it's a big part of how we run our fire and EMT service. So the offers have been made conditionally. There's still some work to be done to get them on board, but the board had agreed to allow us to do that and then ratify the action this evening.
Very good. G is the replace a fire alarm control panel for $11,138. H, this one you might want to talk about, John. I'll read it off. Get you ready here. But renew the Malvern Hunt wastewater treatment plant operations contract for 1 year with Arrow, and the amount is $4,050 monthly with a 30-day termination notice.
Yeah, this is a spray irrigation operation that Arrow, our sewer engineer, runs for us and has been running for us for a number of years. We need to extend the 1 year contract, but also there's a provision in there for a 30-day notice. I don't think if we do go forward with ceasing operation at the Malvern Hunt wastewater treatment plant, then we would give 30 days notice and end that operations contract. So it's basically a month-to-month contract.
Okay. I is approve both the PA DEP sewage facilities planning component 3M Minor Act 537 plan with update revisions, planning form for Plainbrook Road sewer project and resolution. John?
Just real quick, it's a long title, but it's basically a comprehensive plan for sewers. And because the township is involved with the Plainbrook Road sewer projects, we are required by DEP to make a minor plan update for the comprehensive plan, both with a planning form and a resolution that the board will consider as part of this consent agenda.
Very good. And finally, on the consent agenda, J is to approve the sale of police vehicles, 4 of them, through Munici bid. And that would be a 2010 Ford Exhibition for $4,606. 2012 Ford Fusion for $4,350. A Dodge Charger 2013 model for $6,204. And a 2008 Ford E350 for $4,100, which the bid is still active through 7/10/2020.
Yeah, the first three are acceptable to staff and recommend that the board accept those bids. The fourth one, we were hoping to get more than that. We've currently got a high bid of $4,100. We may end up, we're not asking for the board to accept that bid this evening. I think we may end up rebidding or extending the advertising for this last vehicle. I think it's worth much more than the highest bid we got.
Okay.
Do you want us to take that off?
I'd like you to take it off, yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think maybe Rich, you might be in the queue here for making
Sure.
motion.
Okay, make a motion to approve the consent agenda, provided removing the 2008 Ford E350 from item 8J.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Anything I missed or anything that needs clarification?
No, but there's one more comment from Barbara Ann Thav.
Sure.
And she just wanted to thank you for approving option 2 for the Valley Creek Park connection. She says, for the record, 3 Park and Rec board members like Sue Drummond tonight would like to see the width of the path be only 6 feet and not 8 feet wide. So she just wanted
Thank you, Barbara.
That's it for the comments.
Okay. I believe there was a bit of a discussion about the 6 versus the 8, and one of the questions was if there was going to be a sizable savings, which I believe the answer was it was going to be minimal.
It wasn't about the savings. It's about it's too big a path.
Right. Okay. Then I think meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, very good.
Good night.